Alright everybody, we are back for Game 2 of the New Berlin, Wisconsin Battle Road Finals. Game 1 we saw Dave took a pretty convincing victory. And now we're going to see if Abe has what it takes to come back and win these next two games and take home the first place victory cup. So, right now we're going to see a little different start. We have a Sucevich and a Gothitelle and a Collector. So Abe's start looking kind of strong off the start. I just said start a lot of times, but yeah, Collector is the ideal opening with any deck, really. It lets you search for 3 basic Pokemon, lets you get set up immediately, and every time you open with a Collector, you breathe in a sigh of relief knowing this game's probably not going to be too bad. So here, we have that crucial Pokemon Collector. We'll see what 3 Pokemon he gets. Like I always say, what your opponent grabs of their first Collector is a pretty telling sign of what their hand is like. If they don't grab a Cleffa, you're probably in trouble. Or it's prized, but usually you're in trouble. So, we'll see if he takes a Cleffa. We'll see if he just goes right for his other Pokemon. Normally, Gothitelle deck. I would say most of the time, just because there's 2 stage 2s, you need so much to get set up. Usually Gothitelle decks do need a Cleffa off their first hand. Unless you have some absurd start where you get Rare Candy, Gothitelle, Rare Candy, Reuniclus, and then like an Oak's New Theory for 6 fresh cards, something like that. But normally that doesn't happen. So now we see our head judge over there, Chris Cobian, pointing out what's on the line. First and second place victory cups. Who takes first place? Who goes home with a shameful silver? So, looks like Abe's thinking it over. I see a Reshiram in there. What's going on? Alright, so we got Gothitelle, Sucevich, and Reshiram. No Cleffa. Doesn't mean it's prized. Or does Abe have a good hand? Trying to tell from his body language whether or not Cleffa is prized. It looks like it might be. Because with Gothitelle decks, like I was saying, you usually eke no matter what. It's because you need so much stuff. So, we'll see how Abe's setup develops from here. He starts off getting all the crucial Pokemon out. You know, he doesn't really need that Reshiram out right away. So, it's actually quite a danger when you bench those things before you need them. As we saw in the first game, a catcher really set Abe back by bringing out that Zekrom, forcing him to pay 2 to retreat. And it was kind of what bought Dave enough time to set up before Abe could get everything going. It put him in a bad spot. So here, you see Abe contemplating. Doesn't know what to do next. He's got an energy. Doesn't know where to put it. Puts it on Sucevich, which is a little weird. We'll see what he does with it. See, the reason it's weird is, you know, you can put an energy on it and you can retreat, but what do you go to? Do you go to Gothitelle? If that's the case, why? If you go to Reshiram, it's kind of even worse because it's got 2 retreat and you can't get your Gothitelle active when you want to because it's got a 2 retreat cost. And like we saw before, if Gothitelle's not active, it's a bad day for Gothitelle. Once you get rid of that magic room, it's all downhill. So here we have quite a different start for Dave. Communication for Cleffa, fire, a retreat, and an eke. I think he's eking. Can't really tell. Dave's camera shy. So yeah, there we go. He ekes, wakes up, and now it's Abe's turn. So you can kind of see a contrast between the 2 players. Dave is a very quick player. He likes to get going right away. He does everything as fast as possible. And we see Abe really think over his options. He takes his time. He shuffles a lot. He really just takes it slow. He doesn't want to screw up. And we can see Dave is kind of the reckless player going at it. He just wants to knock out all your Pokemon as fast as possible. So it's kind of funny to see the contrast between these 2 players. You know, neither person's right or wrong, but everybody's different. So now, what's Abe going to do? He kind of dug himself in a hole by putting that Reshiram in the active spot. You can see the thought process behind it. You don't want to get knocked out. You want to save your Pokemon. And you can also see he's doing something strange here. Outraging for 20. you don't really want to take the first prize with the Gothitelle deck because normally you run 4 twins, which only works when you're losing. So if you take the first prize, you just kind of shut off access to your own twins. And all I can think of right now is, indeed, Abe's Cleffa is prized. There's no other reason for this opening sequence to go this way. If he had Cleffa, he certainly would have retreated to it, and he would have eked. You can see his hand is not very good because he didn't do anything the second turn. And now I can kind of see why he retreated to Reshiram. But, I don't know. We'll have to see. Maybe he'll top deck into something. But if I had to take a guess right now, this game is going to get kind of ugly. And there we can see another eek. You know, Dave got a Quilava. Got some glare from the sunlight. Curse that sun. We got Quilava, Reshiram, I think Vulpix, and then 2 more Cyndaquils. Like I said, that evil sun gets in the way sometimes. But I think that's what we got. So we have Cleffa waking up again. So it will get knocked out by Outrage if Abe decides to go on that route. Maybe he'll get the Cleffa out of his prizes. Maybe that's what he's thinking. Maybe he's just thinking his hand is so bad, he's got to do something, make something happen. And here we go, Outrage. There's a knockout. And now Dave's promoting that Reshiram, so there's a good chance he could have a Typhlosion, an Energy, and then Blue Flare. You know, he wouldn't want a Blue Flare, that would be a big mistake, but a plus power, and he could Blue Flare for 130, even a catcher. Bring out a Solosis or a Gothita. Either one is a good choice. And then get a knockout on those, and all of a sudden Abe's going to be in the hole. It all hinges on what Dave has, but it certainly seems like he has a pretty good window here. He's playing a Junk Arm. Looks like he's discarding 2 collectors. That glare's getting kind of bad. Sorry about that. We have a Communication. Let's see what he gets. I'm gonna guess. Starts with a T, ends in a Typhlosion. But it looks like there's one in his hand actually, so I'm not sure. He can also go for Ninetales. He probably wants to get a catcher or a plus power this turn. He's played that Communication, shuffling in Quilava, okay. And there's Ninetales, so he's gonna get that into play. I would assume we'll see a Roast reveal, drawing 3 cards. He's gonna try to draw a catcher or a plus power to knock out this Reshiram. He's got a lot of options at this point. You know, even if he just outraged for 20 or 30 this turn, he'd probably still end up on top of this game. Abe's hand seems like it's very bad. He shut off his own access to twins by taking the first prize. It's just not looking pretty. You know, part of Gothitelle's strength is the fact that it can run so many twins, because even if you fall behind 4, 5 prizes, you can still win games, just with Magic Room and Damage Swap. So here we see a Typhlosion, Afterburner onto Reshiram, and let's see if we got anything else. Alright, we got an Outrage for 30. So, probably not the explosive turn Dave wanted, but like I said, he doesn't have to be in any hurry. Abe's got nothing going. So, here, we got a Gothorita, and it looks like Abe did get that Cleffa out of his prizes. It is in his hand now. So is he going to decide to retreat and eek here? I would hope so, because, you know, he hasn't played any supporters so far. He hasn't really played anything, to be honest. All he's played is that double colorless. He probably drew into that Gothorita. And here we go. We're going to see a retreat and an eek. And I wish somebody would block out that sun. But we'll deal with it. Pretty sure I can tell what everything is. I'll just fill you in as we go along. So we have a Cleffa eking here. Thankfully, Reshiram is white. It's bright, so the sun doesn't affect it too much. We can still make that one out. Cleffa, I don't know. Cleffa's not as strong as Reshiram, so we can't make him out. But it is a Cleffa. And we have, on Dave's bench, Cyndaquil, Typhlosion, Ninetales, Cyndaquil, and Reshiram. I think so. Yeah. Alright. So, Cleffa stays asleep, and I'm sure Dave's going to be looking for that catcher this turn. He needs the catcher out something. He wants to get a prize. We've seen Oak's new theory. I can make that one out still. We're going to shuffle in his hand and get 6. If he gets a fire, he can roast reveal for 3 more. And he's going to be going for catcher on Gothitelle, I would think. You want to take that thing out before it evolves. If you can eliminate all the Gothitelles before they evolve, that's great. That's what you want. You don't want to be under Magic Room. It's just going to lock your trainers. And we'll see if Dave got it or not. It's actually kind of a big moment in the game. If Abe can get that Gothitelle into play, he'll shut off a lot of options for Dave. But right when I say that, we got Rare Candy, Typhlosion, Kolava. And he's thinking about it. And pass, so no catcher. Abe's catching a break here. And Cleffa wakes up, so he's catching another break. Now, if Abe can get that Gothitelle into play and a Reuniclus, I'm thinking he's going to be okay. He's putting a Psychic onto Gothitelle. Okay. Now, he doesn't want to make the same mistake he made last game. What did he do last game? He sent up a Gothitelle. He attacked a Reshiram for 50 with Mad Kinesis, and it led to his downfall. So, here he's doing something almost as bad. He's getting a Gothitelle out with an energy and leaving it on the bench. Magic Room only works when you're the active Pokemon. So, we'll see if Dave... He didn't have a catcher last turn, so there's a chance he doesn't have one still. But let's say Dave has a plus power and a catcher. Your Gothitelle disappears. And since you took that first prize, you don't have access to twins anymore. And then what? Dave's going to be in a dominant position. So, right now we have that Eek. We got nothing. And, alright, so Tails, Cleffa does stay asleep, but that's not what matters. Alright, we have 3 Typhlosions out now. Here's that plus power. Dave's debating it. Alright, here's that plus power. And it looks like a Juniper. Yep, he drew 7 cards. And if he gets a catcher here... Alright, there's a switch too. So, something I didn't mention is maybe he didn't have enough fire in his discard to Afterburner 2 energy onto Reshiram. Maybe he couldn't Blue Flare with that Reshiram. That could have been a problem as well. But now we have 3 Typhlosions out, a Ninetales, 2 Reshirams, a plus power. Do we have the catcher? There it is. Alright, so there's the Pokemon catcher. Gothitelle's coming out. This is not good for Abe. This is the worst case situation he could be in. And, yeah, what does he do from here? He's going to be left with no energy in play, no evolutions, tied on prizes still, but there's still time. There's still plenty of time. He's only at 5 prizes. Dave, you know, he can get down to 1 prize, and if Abe fully sets up, Abe will still win the game. That's how strong Magic Room and Damage Swap are together. Gothitelle and Reuniclus. If he gets that full setup, Dave is still going to lose. It's just a matter of, can he get there? He already lost to Gothitelle. He lost those resources. Who knows? You know, he's still tied on prizes, which is going to make this awkward. If he doesn't have a Twins, it's going to be bad. If he does have a Twins right now, he can't play it. So where do we go from here? You just hope Gothitelles aren't prized, I guess. Because now Dave's going to be able to catch her out another Gothitelle. This is an important thing that people don't always realize. You know, at this point, well, I wish I could see what Abe's playing, but I'm going to think it's Collector? Can't tell. Darn you, son. So Abe's playing some supporter. Not sure what it is. But I was gonna say, let's say it gets to a point where, you know, this first Gothitelle's knocked out. That's 1 Gothitelle down. There's another Gothitelle sitting there. That's probably gonna go down unless he evolves it. And what is going on here? Abe is taking 2 cards. It looks like he played a Twins. Oops. So Abe has played a Twins when they're tied on prizes. So Yep, that was the Twins. You can see it now. So, you know, you kind of get into a rhythm when you're playing a Gothitelle deck. When your opponent takes the first prize, you think, alright, now I can play Twins. But he actually took the first prize with Outrage, and now he played the Twins. So, not sure what the penalty is for something like that. Looks like the judge is shuffling his deck, just to make it random again. So you can see Abe might be a little rattled. You know, he lost the first game, probably not too confident. And you can see something he did that probably just completely cost him the game was he benched another Reshiram. He did not leave another slot for a Gothita. So if he doesn't Rare Candy into Gothitelle this turn, the game's going to be over. Even if he does, well, there are situations where he could damage swap to knock out his own Cleffa to free up a bench spot. He could Seeker, but it's not a pretty spot to be in when you only have room for one Gothita or some Gothitelle form. Because, alright, let's say he puts a Gothitelle active this turn. It's got 1 energy, he passes. Well, Dave just uses Flare Destroy with Typhlosion. He's got enough Typhlosions in play so that he could retreat and then power up a Typhlosion to Flare Destroy. He discards your Psychic. You can never attack with it. Alright, let's say Abe does not evolve this turn. Let's say he just leaves it at Gothita. He passes. What does Dave do then? He catches Gothita. Gothitelle never comes into play. So something you have to pay attention to when you're playing these decks, or any deck really, is to not mess up your bench. You have 2 Reshirams there. Neither of them need to be there at this point. They serve no purpose at this point. You put them down when you got a Gothitelle active, so they can't be catchered. You put them down when you got a Reuniclus, and you can damage swap to them. But until then, don't play them down. This is what happens. If Dave's got a catcher here, I gotta think this game is completely finished. And we're gonna see him beat a horrible matchup. You know, he's gonna overcome this terrible, terrible matchup, Gothitelle Reuniclus. And, you know, it's kind of a shame that Abe did this, but he's probably kind of rattled after he used that Twins. You know, every time you kind of make a silly error like that, it really gets in your head. You kind of get nervous. You kind of screwed up. You got to get over that. But, you know, maybe in that period of time, he just kind of had a lapse in judgment, wasn't thinking. Probably thinking, man, how stupid was I to do that? I mean, it happens. And so, I've been there before. I've played cards when I couldn't before. Trust me, plenty of times. All you have to do is get over it, but it looks like he got the best of him here. Benching that Reshiram, I think it's going to cost him the game. So here we have a catcher for Gothita. That bench spot really needed to be another Gothita, not the Reshiram. So we see a blue flare, a knockout, and what can Abe do from here? Not a whole lot. There's 2 Gothitas in the discard pile. You got to think every time he plays one down, it's just going to get knocked out. It's just going to be catchered up. And now, where does he go from here? You know, even if a Gothita is prized, he pretty much loses the game, unless he plays a revive. So, we'll see if one's prized. Looks like our judge is kind of talking to Dave about something. Not sure what that's about. Don't think it's anything major, though. So, we're seeing Abe still use Collector. Thankfully, someone blocked out that sun, because now we can see everything again. So we got a Gothita and a Zekrom. So, what does that mean? I'm gonna think that means we're all out of Gothitas here, which is not good. If Dave is a catcher, game's over. Trying to find a way out for Abe here. Does not look pretty. Dave, look at his board. He's got 3 Typhlosions, 9 Tails, 2 Reshirams against a Cleffa, 2 Slowsis, and 2 Reshirams with nothing on them. So now, we're in trouble. Where does Abe go from here? He's already lost the first game. If he loses this one, tournament's over. Dave's the winner. Abe takes second. And when you're in this spot, it's not a good feeling. You know, especially when you kind of made a mistake. You played that Twins. You messed up your bench space. Man, it's rough. So Abe's going to do everything he can to play his way out of this. But really, the ball is in Dave's court at this point. I mean, he's knocked out a Gothitelle, a Gothita. There's just one Gothita left in play. If he's got a catcher for that one, a Gothitelle's never going to come out. And the game's just going to end. So, kind of depressing. Just seeing the game so one-sided. But, honestly, that's kind of how this matchup goes. Either Gothitelle gets set up, and it's a one-sided victory for Gothitelle, or Gothitelle doesn't set up, and it's a one-sided victory for Typhlosion. So, unfortunately, this matchup, and Gothitelle in general, does not make for very exciting matchups. Either the person playing Gothitelle sets up and steamrolls the other person, or it goes the other way around. And, you know, there's exceptions. Some decks can knock out Gothitelle in one hit. Those matchups are a little different. But this one, you know, I've had another Battle Road Finals where it was Gothitelle against Zekrom. Once Gothitelle sets up, game's over. So that's just kind of how it goes. It's not too exciting. But hey, it wins. It does the job. It's all that matters. But here, we're going to see, does Dave... Oh, not sure what's going on. Joe just pointing out something. But we're going to see, does Dave have the catcher? If he does, that Gothita's going down, and so are Abe's chances. So now, like I said, ball's in Dave's court. It's his game to lose at this point. Does he have the resources to just keep putting the pressure on Abe? Even if he knocks out this Cleffa, Abe's not going to be in the greatest of spots. Because, well, if he pushes up Gothita, oh, and there's Junk Arm for catcher. And that's going to spell the end, I think. Man, when Abe used Collector before, he only grabbed one Gothita, so unless there was one in his hand, he's all out of those. And there we go. Abe scoops. The Gothita's prized. And, yeah, that's it. So, unfortunate for Abe. You know, congratulations to Dave. Gets his first Battle Road victory. If I'm not mistaken, it's his first tournament victory, so congratulations. He took second at 2 Battle Roads. Now he finally gets his victory. Congratulations to both players. Abe showing off his victory cup. So yeah, congratulations to getting to the finals. You know, that's a big accomplishment in itself. So yeah, there we had it. On paper, this looked like a clear-cut victory for Gothitelle. Once it gets set up, it just plows over Typhlosion. No question about it. Game over. But we saw that's why the matchups are not 100% in favor of one deck. As Chris Berman from ESPN would say, that's why they play the games. So, you never know who's going to win. You never know who's going to fizzle out. You never know who's going to get a bad hand. Weird situations come up in Pokemon all the time. The matchups are not clear-cut, where the same thing happens every game. It's a dynamic game where you have to adapt to different situations. You have to read what's going on. You know, stuff can be prized. You can get a bad hand. You just don't draw into everything you need. So you have to take everything into account. Sometimes there's coin flips. Pokemon is a complicated game, and as we saw here, doesn't always go as planned. And Dave came out on top for this one. Congratulations. Guess I got nothing else to say on that front. So thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed this. Please check out our website. It's new, remodeled. Thanks to Drew Holton for doing that. It's thetopcut.net. We got all of our videos, all of our updates, pretty much everything Pokemon TCG related is on our site. So definitely check that out. Leave some feedback in the comments. If you got anything to say, got any questions, try to answer those as soon as I can. Otherwise, thanks for watching. You guys are great. You know, I'm getting a lot of great comments, a lot of great feedback, a lot of people saying thank you. But thank you guys for watching. Truly, I mean it. We're just trying to grow Pokemon and make it a bigger and better game for everybody. And we need all the support we can get. And I appreciate everything people have been saying so far. So, truly, thank you. And until next time, see you guys and take care.